They say you should never look at them. No matter how sweet their singing sounds, no matter how curious you are, if you hear the procession at midnight, you must close your eyes, cover your ears, and pray until it passes. I used to think it was just another old village superstition, until the night I decided to see for myself. It was during the dry season, when the harmattan wind makes your lips crack and your skin itch. The nights were so cold that even the dogs in the village curled up into balls, refusing to bark. That night, I couldn't sleep. It was a little past midnight when I heard it, faint at first, like the hum of faraway bees. Then it grew clearer. It wasn't drumming. It wasn't talking. It was singing. The voices were soft and slow, singing in a language I had never heard before. It wasn't Igbo. It wasn't Yoruba. It wasn't even Hausa. Each voice seemed to rise and fall in perfect harmony, the way a mother hums when she rocks her child to sleep. The strange thing was that the singing seemed to be coming from the main village road, but there was no festival, no vigil, nothing that night. My heart was thumping as I got out of bed. My grandmother, who I lived with, was snoring quietly in her room. I tiptoed to the small wooden window and slid it open just a little. The moon was bright, bathing the road in silver. Then I saw them. A line of people, at least 20 of them, moving slowly down the road. They were dressed in white from head to toe, their garments long and flowing like old burial shrouds. They walked in perfect step, their bare feet making no sound on the dust. At the front, a tall figure carried a long staff with something tied to the top. It looked like a bundle of palm fronds, swaying slightly as he moved. I leaned closer, trying to see their faces, and that's when I noticed something that made my skin crawl. They had no faces. Where their eyes, nose, and mouth should have been, there was only smooth skin, pale and glowing under the moonlight. One of them stopped. I don't know how, but I knew instantly it was looking right at me, even without eyes. Its head tilted slightly, and the singing stopped for a moment. The rest of the procession froze, their heads turning in unison toward my window. The tall figure at the front raised his staff slowly. I stumbled back from the window, my breath caught in my throat. Then, as if nothing happened, they all turned forward again and continued their slow, silent walk, the singing starting up once more until it faded into the distance. The next morning, I told my grandmother what I had seen. She stopped stirring the pot of pap she was making and looked at me with wide eyes. "You looked at them," she whispered. I nodded. She dropped the spoon into the pot, grabbed my hand, and began to pray in rapid, shaky words, her voice trembling. "You must not look at them," she said when she was done. "Those are not the living. They walk only for the souls they have come to take. And if they see you, they will come back for you." That was 3 days ago. Last night, I heard the singing again, and this time, it was closer. The singing came again last night. But this time, it was not faint or far away. It was close, so close I could feel the vibration of the voices in my ribs, like the hum of a deep drum played far underground. I was alone. Grandmother had gone to a neighbor's prayer meeting and told me to lock the doors and sleep early. But sleep was the last thing on my mind. My thoughts kept circling the first night I saw them, the pale robes, the faceless heads, the way they all turned to look at me in perfect unison. I had promised myself I would never look again. I had told myself I would listen to my grandmother. But curiosity is a terrible thing. It burns slowly at first, then spreads like dry grass catching fire. The first note was low and soft, almost like the hum of someone breathing in your ear. Then other voices joined in, blending into a slow, haunting melody in that same language I could not understand. I froze in bed, my blanket pulled tight under my chin. But the sound grew clearer, closer, as though they were moving directly toward my house. I swallowed hard. My legs felt heavy, but I pushed myself up and padded to the front door. I told myself I'd only open it a crack, just to prove they weren't coming here. The night air was icy against my skin as I eased the door open. And there they were. Through the thin harmattan mist, I saw the line of white-robed figures moving with that same slow, deliberate pace. Their garments glowed faintly under the half-hidden moon. The leader's staff swayed with each step, the palm fronds at the top bending as if they were breathing. But this time, they weren't simply passing down the main road. They were walking straight toward my compound. When they reached the entrance to our yard, the singing stopped so suddenly it was as though the sound had been cut from the air with a knife. The leader slammed the base of the staff into the dust. The sound that followed was deep and hollow, not the sound of wood on earth, but of something striking the inside of a giant empty drum. Every figure in the line turned its head toward me at the same time. Even without eyes, I felt their gaze. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. The leader slowly lowered the staff until the palm fronds pointed directly at me. The air around me felt heavier, pressing against my chest until it was hard to breathe. One of the figures broke away from the line. It glided forward without sound until it stood less than 2 arm lengths away. Its smooth face tilted to one side, and then I heard the voice. "We saw you watching." The words were neither loud nor quiet, but they slid into my bones like cold water. My mind screamed at me to run, but my body refused to move. The figure stepped closer. "Once we are seen, we see in return," it said. Its head tilted the other way, as if studying me. "And when we see, we take." The leader struck the ground with the staff again, and a low rumble moved through the dust under my bare feet. The rest of the procession began to hum softly, the sound vibrating through the still air. Then, from somewhere behind me, I heard my name, sharp and urgent. Grandmother burst from the shadows, wrapper loose around her waist, hair untied, clutching a large calabash as if her life depended on it. She didn't hesitate. She knelt on the road in front of the leader, muttering prayers so fast the words tangled together. With trembling hands, she poured palm wine onto the dusty ground. The liquid glistened in the moonlight before sinking into the earth. The humming stopped. For a long, breathless moment, the procession stood still. The leader tilted its featureless head, as though listening to something only it could hear. The palm fronds on its staff swayed, though there was no wind. Then, without warning, the leader turned away. The rest followed, moving as one. They walked back down the road, fading slowly into the harmattan mist until they were gone completely. The only thing left behind was a single palm frond lying in the dust. Grandmother bent down, picked up the frond, and wrapped it in a piece of cloth without touching it directly. She didn't speak a word as she carried it to the cooking fire in the kitchen hut. I watched as she dropped it into the flames. It didn't burn like a normal leaf, it twisted, blackened, and dissolved into ash within seconds, releasing a faint hiss that made the hairs on my arms rise. That night, by the flicker of the fire, she finally told me the truth. "They don't work for everyone," she said, her voice low. "They work only for the ones they have marked. When you looked at them that first night, you marked yourself. If I hadn't given them an offering, they would have come back until they took you." I wanted to ask what taking meant, but the look in her eyes told me I didn't want to know. I didn't sleep at all. The singing was gone, but even now, when the harmattan wind whistles through the trees at night, I swear I hear a faint echo of that midnight song, somewhere far away, waiting.